yes, John Malott was a drug addict, criminal, gang member, all this stuff that people use to describe me. So I ended up being alone for about 9 months. But alone with books for 9 months, you can't help but transform yourself. The day I became a free man was the day I stopped caring what other people thought about me. That's how I ended up making tens of millions of dollars. And I did in 3 weeks what it took me 3 years to do when I was there almost 20 years ago. The height of your success will be determined by the depth of your gratitude. You don't have to be great to start, but you've got to start to be great.
Welcome to the Fearless Founders podcast. Today I am here with John Malott, and I am so excited to dive into his story of how he became the entrepreneur he is today. We're going to go in between all of it. So, hi, welcome.
Hi, welcome me.
Welcome you.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm stoked to have you.
It's cool you got this thing off the ground.
Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes we all have dreams and goals, and a lot of times we don't hit them when we think. And it's like, how do you keep going even when you aren't where you think you should be?
Yeah, well, that's the name of the game. So, well, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today?
Well, let's get straight into how you became John Malott, because we all have a story, and I think that you have an intriguing story from, you know, being 15, incarcerated, to, you know, now your relationship that is all over social media with your absolutely stunning wife.
Thank you.
Oh, my goodness. So...
Yes.
Yeah, how did John...
Well, let's hurry up and do this so I can get back to her.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I guess I used to say I'm the unlikely CEO, entrepreneur, but now I realize that it was really the only path that was going to work for me, because I don't have all the things that society says you're supposed to have to be successful. I don't have a college degree. I don't have a high school diploma. My first felony arrest, I was 15 years old. I robbed a movie theater at gunpoint. Long story behind that. I'm not going to go into that, but you know, I spent, you know, a chunk of my teenage years locked up, but in the end, when I look back, it was really that was where the entrepreneur seed was planted. And then, you know, later on, as I had additional challenges, I had a heart attack from smoking cocaine at 17 years old. There were some circumstances around that, so I got locked up, but I was in a drug rehab, and that's where a guy by the name of Dave, former outlaw motorcycle gang member, he was the first guy that didn't talk at me and didn't preach to me, but he was a hard ass. He was like, bro, stop being a little baby. He used a different word. You're here because you made an appointment to be here. And he said, that's the bad news. He said, the good news is I'm going to help you make some new appointments. You know, and he was like, this is all you. You blame your mom for leaving. You blame the police. You blame, you know, all the stuff you blame, but in the end, it's you. And he was the first guy that held the mirror up. And he forced me to take accountability for all the messed up things I was doing. But the biggest thing he did is he gave me a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Incredible book.
At 17.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, that seed, you know, later on in life, I ended up writing a book with the motivational speaker, Les Brown. And Les used to always say, once that seed is planted in your mind and it expands, it can never go back to its original dimensions. And that's kind of what happened with that book. I didn't even know that this information existed. And so it did get me this little fire in me. Now, I didn't do anything for a long time. I always say I had 1 foot in the hood and, you know, 1 foot in in trying to become something.
Yeah.
But that's where it all began. My final felony arrest, I was 24 years old, but this time I have a baby. And as I was being arrested in my home, watching Lauren, you know, 2 years old, screaming, freaking out. She doesn't know exactly what's going on, but sitting on that bullpen floor in the Milwaukee County Jail. Have you ever drank too much and you're over the toilet saying, God, I'll never drink again if you just let me get through this?
Last night. No, just kidding.
Yes.
I was like, I gotta perform today.
Oh,
no,
my
kidding.
goodness.
But yes, I have. And you're like, I just like, please help me feel my best, because
yeah, and I was in with these hardened criminals facing some interesting consequences for my actions again, and I was praying, you know, please, I'll never commit a crime again. I'm going to change. And it was on that bullpen floor that I made a decision that, you know, yes, John Malott was a drug addict, criminal, gang member, all this stuff that people use, you know, to describe me. That's who I was. But coming out of here, I wouldn't be that person anymore. And it really did. It changed. It literally changed that weekend, July 4th, 1993. And I eliminated all of the negative influences in my life, the power of associations. All my associations were kind of shit. So I ended up being alone for about 9 months. But alone with books for 9 months, you can't help but transform yourself.
Well, and I heard something, and tell me if this is true, that most people go and make, and those who do end up in jail, is because they're hanging out with the wrong people, right? It was like their friend group. Yes, you made the choices, but who were you choosing to surround yourself with? Was that part of why you ended up making the choices you were making?
For sure. You know, I grew up in a neighborhood where neighbors were piled on top of you. You know, you could reach the neighbor's house. There's three families living in, the one little building that we're in. And as soon as you walk out the door, your friends are right there, and we all got a plan. And it was never, to go to church or play Monopoly. It was, we used that energy that we had as young people in a negative fashion. But it was just that's what you did there. So it never felt like, when you're doing something wrong, but everybody's kind of doing it, you don't really think about it. This is what we did. And so, associations for sure were big.
Well, then when you made that new decision, were you not surrounding yourself with those people anymore?
I had to get away from them. Had to. My sister died from a heroin overdose when she was 21 years old. And again, there's a clear correlation or relationship. Her boyfriend was really the one who created the whole freaking problem. And had she been away from him, she would probably be alive today. So there's usually, another piece to the story. And there's usually some people behind you, either cheering you on to do great or cheering you on to fail. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when they're cheering you, you don't know what side they're actually on. And, my brother, he's had his share, he's 2 years younger than me, but he's just had a hard time. He just was shot in April, survived. So
I'm sorry.
They haven't been able to, three of us, and only one, I don't say made it because I never feel like I made it, but made it out of that environment because I got away from that environment.
Yeah.
And I made it a priority.
Yeah.
So that was the difference.
Well, and that's the powerful reminder that, it doesn't matter where you come from, that we all have the decision to choose, and we can change our life, and eliminating those people around us who are pulling us down. Because it's a lot of times well, I can't leave this situation, or I can't. Well, if you don't, what's going to happen?
Yeah, and that's where I was. My wife and I got matching tattoos. Well, I have a lot more, but your past does not equal your future.
Amen.
And so that was a big, that's a big driver for me.
Amen.
Is I used to get, we're our worst enemies. Yeah. I'm always I still have this negative energy from when I was a kid. I don't know why it's still there. I'm constantly pushing it out, and I got to work hard to get rid of it. I'm prone to depression. I'm prone to bad behavior. Mm-hmm. And, I got to reel it in. I got to have that self-talk sometimes, and say, look, that's who you were. That's not who you are.
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah.
Well, that's even a lot of times coming on podcasts, even though I like to briefly go through, how did you become who you are? It's not who you are now. It helped you become the man you are today.
Yeah.
I've made plenty of decisions that I am not proud of, but I would not be the woman I am right now without them.
It shapes us. Anyone that when people walk around like they're so perfect and holier than thou, I guess they call it, it's just annoying.
Yeah.
And then you find out later on, it's like the pastor, you find out later on what he was actually doing. You know what I mean? And you're the guy, you're preaching to me, or the police officer who's dirty, stuff like that. And we've had so many leaders let us down, and part of it is they were never authentic.
Yeah.
About it. So when you put me on a podcast, you just never know what you might get. I'm trying to refrain from cussing. There was a time I couldn't speak without cuss
You're
words
okay
flying.
if you curse.
Yeah, every now and then
it's not a big deal.
yeah. So but even that I'm trying to. I had a mentor recently, really go into vocabulary, and I know they say, well, Tony Robbins cusses like a sailor. Well, I'm not Tony Robbins. I don't have 70 gazillion billions of dollars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so. I think in some cases you are going to put up a little bit of a facade depending on the environment you're in. The tattoos were a challenge for some people to do business with me as I was coming up. So you realize that every decision you make about your appearance, about the way you carry yourself, has the potential to impact for sure business. Mm-hmm. But when you get to the point like where I'm at now, I do my own shit. I build my own companies, and because I kind of had to, because when you have a colorful past, they're not opening doors for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you check the box that says you did it, they're not hiring you.
Yeah.
If you don't check it, later on they find out and they fire you. So, that's why I started creating businesses that provided people that had colorful backgrounds opportunities so that they could really become who they're supposed to become.
Which is incredible. Yeah. So that's how you started. You built your first business. What was your first business?
Well, so my first business was a company called TPN. It was a satellite, a big old satellite, and it pumped personal development into people's homes. So think like Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Les Brown. So here, it sounds great until you start to realize, well, first off, it was $50 a month for one channel back then. And you had to install, and at the time I was living in the Midwest. I think I was in Milwaukee at that time still. And I'm up on the roof in the middle of winter yelling down, is it on the TV yet? I'm adjusting the satellite, and it's snowing, the roof is freezing. So it was a pain in the ass, and it was expensive. People would rather, back then, they would rather get DirecTV with 3 HBOs for $10 a month than pay $50 a month to hear a bunch of guys and women help you become better.
Yeah, but you were kind of ahead of the game there.
We were way ahead.
You were like
way ahead. But I devoured that because that's what happened from that book in drug rehab. That seed was planted, and it led to this personal development journey. And that's what changed everything. It was my mind expanded. And now I would still do dirt from time to time, but I felt dirty. You know what I mean? It's different when you have the information. When you know you're doing it and you do it, now I'm the damn problem. Before it was easy to just blame everybody. Like, well, it's because of this, because of that, because I'm broke, whatever. We have all these damn excuses, and I had them too. But personal development for me became accountability. It's like, you already know you're not supposed to do this.
Do you think that's why a lot of people don't do personal development, is because they don't want to know what?
Hell yeah.
Right?
They don't want to know. I don't go to church sometimes? Because, I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed, but yeah.
To that point, though, that's why we should be going to church, and that's why I've always had a hard time with religion.
Yeah.
It's like, just because you don't have the same sins or struggles as me doesn't mean you don't have sins. And it's like,
Amen.
The person without a sin cast the first stone. And so it's so quick. But then I also am gentle with those people at church. And the reason is because if I'm sitting here judging them, now I'm no better than them. And so it's kind of, I've had to find this like thin line, because I've always been, the one thing all my friends will say, you're the least judgmental person I've ever met.
I love that.
They're like, if I had a body, I'd call you first. Right? And I was like, well, I don't know if I love that, but thank you.
Thanks for making me an accomplice.
Yeah, please don't call me with the bodies. But so then you went in, you did the personal development. Obviously that was a hard one. You were early to the game.
Yeah. And so that company got bought. It got bought by DirecTV.
Oh, cool.
So they but they wanted the bandwidth, because digital was becoming the new thing, because this was analog. They needed the bandwidth. Everything was converting to digital. So it was pretty much done at that point. But it was funny, if you drive through the hood, you see these big ass satellites all over, because they were our so what happened in that transition is, because I realized I could sell 4 HBOs, 3 Showtimes, much easier than I could sell one channel of personal development. So even though in the beginning the channel was still available on that, it was Prime Star that got bought by DirecTV. Anyways, all those details are irrelevant, but the simple fact was, I could sell HBO, I could sell Showtime, but I couldn't sell personal development. It was an interesting thing that I learned, that the majority of people, but this is where another seed was planted. These people aren't even trying. So I had a mentor that kept saying, bro, how hard is it to win a race when nobody's freaking trying? Yeah. And they care more about the entertainment. We care more about what the Kardashians and Kanye West is up to, than we do about our own, what are we up to? What are we going to accomplish today? And that was a great representation of it. Because I'm like, oh shit, if I can get good at this. I still had some arrogance to me as a young person. Like, I was going to dominate the world. Yeah. Like, these dummies, they're going to be watching HBO, and I'm going to keep getting this information and get better and better and better. And that was kind of my mentality.
I think you need that, though.
Yeah, you got to have a little bit.
You got to have a little bit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how do you, keep pushing if you just are like, well, I'm going to suck?
Yeah, if you walk around. And that's what I was doing before that. So that's what's great. Personal development got me to stop saying I suck. Got me to stop, believing I'm a loser. Because I was told I was a loser for so long. It just, all right, that's what I am. And I think a lot of kids get that early on, because I wasn't a good student in school, partly because I had energy. Well, first off, my dad would throw some damn Cocoa Pebbles in a bowl before school.
So you're starting your
Yeah.
day with just straight sugar.
Straight sugar. On the way to school, I grab some now and laters. You know, we go in school, I'm already jacked up on, you know, sugar. Plus, I got energy without it. And so what am I going to do? I can't sit in the classroom. So because of that, I was labeled. It wasn't that I wasn't intelligent. It was I didn't have the attention span because of all these factors. Young, sugar, distractions.
Boys aren't supposed to be sitting. I don't think you're supposed to be sitting at school at a desk for hours a day. I don't think that's how we were designed.
I'm not anti-school, but we need to revamp some things.
Agreed.
Because how you know,
I'm not anti-school at all. I
Yeah.
think learning's
You
amazing,
gotta
but I think we
learn.
need to do it in a more interactive way.
Yeah, I that for sure. You know, for me, there was things like there were certain teachers I would gravitate towards because of how interaction, how they were doing things. I was engaged and stuff. So that changed stuff for me. Whereas the teachers that's just lecturing at me all day, I'm like, oh my, you know, no.
Sleep on the desk.
Yeah, and that's what I did. And you know, in high school, well, partly because of gang stuff, the high school I went to, the majority was the opposing faction, so I couldn't really go to school like in the morning. I couldn't be in the hallways safely in between classes. But they had a swim class at this high school, and that's the class I went to. I went to
Okay.
swim and gym. Those were my two classes.
Wait, what do you mean safely? Because you were.
Yeah, because we had issues like, you know, I wore my hat to the left, they wore their hat to
Okay.
the right.
Got it. So
my
that was
colors
happening.
were different than theirs.
That was happening at school.
at school.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was part of the challenge too. And then, so that's why I dropped out in the 10th grade. I mean, after a while, it's like, well, I'm not getting anything, but I'm getting better at swimming.
Yeah.
That
Swimming's great.
Yeah, it was great. I was in gym class. I loved it. But I was running through those hallways. You know, there was always altercations and challenges, and they happened in the classroom as well. So I just avoided it. And yeah, that
Probably
was,
a safer place out.
it was at that time in the 80s. You know, you had a lot of the gang stuff in our neighborhood. I mean, I'm sure it's still there. I think more of it's tied to drugs and things like that now.
Where'd you grow up?
Milwaukee, South
Okay.
Side.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then,
South
so
Side.
this is nothing was affiliated with.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I'm no longer affiliated.
Oh, we're good. Okay, so then we're going from there. You're out. You've made a decision. Your daughter sounds like she was a clear part of your why
Yeah.
at this time because you know you have this 2-year-old now, someone to live for. Was she a big reason that you made the decision to change as well?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was for myself. I could go be in a tent. You know, I could. You know, I've slept on people's couches, slept in basements. You know, it didn't mean a whole lot to me until she came along, and I wanted to be a better person. You know what I mean? I wanted to be a better man, and that was the beginning. I didn't know what the path was going to be, and I didn't know how that was going to look, but I was reading books, and there were clearly people that had great family lives and people that were, you know, living these lives that I wanted to have. And I tell the story because when I was sitting on the bullpen floor, July 4th, 1993, and by the way, criminals are out on July 4th, 1993, so it's jam packed, and you know we're like crammed in a room bigger than this, but it's just crammed with people, and in that room, it's hot as hell, it's nasty. There's a big bench seat around the whole room. Well, all the best criminals got the bench seat. The rest of us end up on the floor.
Oh.
And so I'm on the floor right next to a toilet that's leaking.
Oh.
It's just disgusting. The whole thing's, and I'm there for 4 days, mind you. So I'm stuck in this spot, my little section. But here's what happened, and here's why it was a curse then, blessing today. When I was in drug rehab, Dave used to say, "A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children," which is a quote from ancient script. So as I'm sitting on the floor for 4 days, all that's playing through my head is a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And Lauren's face screaming and crying as I'm being let out of the house in handcuffs. That's all. That's what played over and over and over and over for 4 days in my head. And I had to be different. I had to come out because I'm clearly not a good man. I can't even take care of the one kid I've got, you know. And she's still in the neighborhood. That's destructive to the human spirit. Mm-hmm. It's bad enough for boys, but now I got a daughter that's going to grow up here? Oh, hell no. So that became my why. It became a huge driver in the beginning. And it sucked, man, because I was terrible. I was a terrible entrepreneur. like, yeah, it was.
Business is learned. That's what I think.
It really is.
It's nothing. No one wakes up. Maybe you have a little more insight, but business is learned. And that's what I always tell people who want to go start something like, well, I don't have any business experience. Well, none of us woke up and were born with business experience.
And we're all afraid. That's what I found out too. Like, everybody's scared.
Yeah, but that's why
Especially
this
in
is
the
called
beginning.
Fearless Founders.
Yeah.
Because it's like taking that fearless action.
Yeah.
Most people don't live their lives because they're too scared.
And do it anyways. I had a mentor, Jeff Olson, who wrote the book, The Slight Edge. And,
Yes.
and, yeah, Jeff was a big part of what happened in my life from a success standpoint. And Jeff, that's what Jeff talked about. Jeff just talked about, these little actions. It's not the big, everyone's looking for this big thing. And we live in a society today where everyone's showing off their Rolls Royces, and we don't know what's real anymore and what's not. And what I caught on to is I could do a little thing. I could read 15 pages of a good book every day and separate myself. I could go to the gym, put in my 30 minutes to an hour every day and separate myself. Over time, I wouldn't look much different today than the next guy, but give me some time.
The compound
Why?
effect.
Well, yeah, the compound effect. Darren Hardy was another guy who was mentored by Jeff Olson and was also in business with me at one point. And we all learned this stuff. Like, okay, I get it. I just got to keep doing it. I got to keep doing it. I got to keep doing it. Something's going to hit. Now we want everything fast. I mean, the influencer world, there is that possibility where something goes viral and you get noticed or whatever. But that's, again, it's always been that top 1%.
Yeah.
Something magical happen. But that's not most people. Most of us are going to have to get up today, just like you did. I got to get up. I got the day scheduled. I'm going to meet these people.
Yep.
I got to deal with big egos, personalities, everything else, and put this podcast together.
Yeah.
And have the courage to do it.
Yeah. Well, and it was a commitment because I only do in-person interviews, and I didn't realize when I started that means like nobody's flying to me yet. I'm not that
Joe
cool
Rogan.
yet.
Yeah,
I'm not
like
Joe Rogan. Nobody's like, let me go to Boise, Idaho.
Exactly.
So
hey Joe, if you're listening, bro, I'll fly out. I'll fly out. I promise.
He'll come. He'll come. Me too.
Yeah.
But to your point of, I think it's consistency over intensity. Right? Because sometimes a lot of people want to go be intense, work out really hard, and then not work out for 5 days.
Yeah.
And then I actually created, to your point, what you just said, it's the small actions. I created something called 14 Fearless, and it's what are the 14 fearless actions that will get you to your next step? It's that phone call. It's that recording. And that's it. And if you could just do 14 of those a month, of the shit that scares you, it's like, you'll be so far because how many times do we know we want to pick up the phone and go ask or do the, be like, what do you think of this business idea? But we're too scared.
Too scared. And I was there, so I can relate. But, my
How'd
hunger.
you get over that fear?
Well, hunger.
Okay.
Hunger eventually overrode the fear. Now, we just launched a new service to our community. And it's interesting because I know we have a lot of hungry people. I mean, some of them I'd say are borderline starving. Like, they just haven't made money in a while. They're not making money. But it's hard for me to understand having hunger, but still not taking action. Having hunger, but still being lazy. Mm-hmm. Like, that was never, I don't know, it doesn't sit well in my psyche. Like, you're hungry, you need it, you should do it, you could do it, but you don't do it. Mm-hmm. You know it, plus you know it. Like, it's not that you're ignorant to it because you're plugging into our events on a weekly basis. You're plugging into our, mentorship. And you're still not doing it. You're like, I don't know what that is.
But they're showing up, aren't they?
They do show up. So maybe.
Well, but here's the thing. That's what I've learned too. I think sometimes you become an overlearner. And so you want to just go consume more and you go to more events and you sign up for more but you never take action on any of it. But you feel like you're getting somewhere because you're still learning.
I used to say, I have some people around me that have personally developed themselves stupid. Like,
I like that.
And they're probably in Barnes and Noble right now, sniffing the fucking paperbacks. Like, all right, bro, you got to take that information from the book and now go do something with it. That's the name of the game. And
yeah.
I think it's why people stay in school for so long, and then they go get their, whatever PhD, master, whatever those things are. But it's like, well, all right, well, what are you doing? And I don't know. You're going to stay in a dormitory for the rest of your life?
Yeah. Well, and you'll learn more from taking action. Go, instead of reading how to build the business, what's the best marketing plan, the best one is the one you go do.
Bingo. And if I do have a claim to fame, which I don't, I'm not walking around patting myself on the back by any means.
But you should give yourself some kudos.
I do. I know what we've done. It really does still pale in comparison to what I believe we should have done and what we're capable of doing.
Well, you're still going.
I'm still going.
It's not over.
I'm still young. Good thing I got a mature wife that, keeps me from partying all the time. But yeah, it's like I'm an action taker. And now I'm at a point where I really don't care what other people think. And for a long time I did, and that was a big change. The day I became a free man was the day I stopped caring what other people thought about me. And it freed me forever, because now I could pick up the phone and talk to anybody. Matter of fact, when we just launched our new service a month ago, the first thing I did is I reached out to my richest friends. I was looking for people that I knew were doing over $1 million a year. $1 million a year was the minimum benchmark. And some of my friends, were 200, 300, 400 million bucks. I hit them immediately. Where back in the day, that would have been my chicken list. There's no way I'm going to hit them, because I would prejudge, like, oh, they're, whatever. Now I'm like, look, if I get one of these guys, their database is big. I'm getting leverage. I'm saving time. So, in my business, because we economically empower people, we give people affiliate opportunities so they can go out and make money. And I keep telling people, stop going and recruiting the homeless guy. Like, I know he needs it. The challenge is you need it too, but now you're going to be dedicating all your time. You got to get him cleaned up. There's 1,000 things you got to do. So go after the people that already have it together first. And then they open up doors for you. And now, matter of fact, they tend to be self-sufficient, so they're probably not even going to need you at a certain point. Now you can go get another one and another one. And that's how I end up making tens of millions of dollars.
Is that your business now?
Yeah, my business. I've always been in even before affiliate marketing was cool, before TikTok Shop showed up and told us all we should be, hustling and dancing on live selling products. Yeah, we were doing that. We were doing that. That because nobody would hire me, so I had to find a place that I could be independent. So I became an affiliate, started hustling other people's shit in the beginning on a 1099.
Affiliate work is actually so badass, and I think a lot of people, they don't know a lot about it.
Yeah.
Can you explain what an affiliate is for those who don't know the lingo?
Yeah, it's real simple. So for example, I just launched a legal insurance service. It's just like the name suggests. It's like you have life insurance if you die, car insurance if you get in a car accident. If you end up in a legal jam, or you need a will done, or irrevocable trust, or you get a speeding ticket, or you got some contract. Anyways, what's funny about this is I started there almost 30 years ago. Okay. This was the place where they said, okay, it's okay what you did in the past. So I started here in my late 20s after being released. It was where I made my first $100,000 a year, my first $250,000 a year. I made my first $1 million there, 20s and 30s.
Amazing.
I was there for almost 15 years as an affiliate. So basically, I had the right to do business in their names, as long as I, followed their rules. And these legal plans sold like crazy. We were going into companies, and we'd go into a break room with the health insurance people, and we would blow people away. We'd be walking out, like back then we were counting $100 bills, these paper applications we were doing. And I'd be walking out of there, $4,000 or $5,000.
Because you're selling them to the individuals or the company themselves?
So we were able to show companies like what it's costing you if your employees are having legal challenges, whether it's divorce or whatever, they're stressed, they're probably unproductive.
Yep.
And so we used to have statistics around all this stuff, and we would show that how much an unproductive employee is costing an employer. Well, if I'm the CEO, and if I can offer something like this without any cost to the company, just have you come in and do it, and it's legit. They were in, and so we did that. But anyway,
Cool.
I left that company after being there for, 13, 14 years, and I was gone for over 13 years. 1 month ago, I said, I need something for the team, something that's different, because everything's the same. Everyone's on AI, everyone's on real estate, and I'm not knocking anybody. I think it's all great.
It is all great, but I get your
But
point.
everybody, we all gravitate there, so it becomes very crowded, and for the average person, like, it's going to be tough to compete with a Cody Sperber, or you got guys like Pace Morby and these guys. They know the game really well. It's going to take some time for them to get you up to speed in this stuff.
Yeah.
I needed something that would happen fast, and it wasn't that crowded. But here's what drove everything. I'm still being paid that service. I was gone for over 13 years. My residual income is significant, and it comes every single day. So I take it for granted. It's just a check there, so I can go and do all this other stuff.
Because do you still get that?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I got customers from almost 30 years ago, still have the plan. Cody Sperber and I own Snap Active Lifestyle along with my wife, Najla, and we're just trying to get someone to stay on a damn supplement for 90 days. Like,
Yeah.
like stay healthy for 90 days, Sparky. Like what the, like it's not that complex. When I looked at this plan, I said, I got people that have been on this thing for 30 years. I got people saying they would cancel their auto insurance or their life insurance before they would cancel this plan because it, saved their driver's life, all kinds of stuff they say.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'm like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Sometimes like Earl Nightingale wrote the book, Acres of Diamonds. The diamonds were in his backyard, but he went all over the world looking for them. And I had it in my backyard. And I'm like, what am I doing? And so anyways, we launched a month ago, and I basically started building from scratch. I had the residual check coming in, but I didn't have a team anymore. So we started building the team, and I did in 3 weeks what it took me 3 years to do when I was there almost 20 years ago.
So it's your product?
No,
Okay,
it's
go
their
ahead.
product.
It's still their product.
I'm hustling their product.
And now you're relaunching it.
Yeah, the company's been around 50 years. They got 4.4 million customers.
Oh, yeah.
And,
And
yeah.
you're like, why did I leave this?
Why did I leave? Because my ego. I mean, I did
Yeah.
I did leave, and I made about $30 million when I was gone. But I also had a confidence because I had a check. You know what I mean? Like most people, they're always in hustle mode.
Well, and you can't really do great when you're always like, when you're overly hungry, when you're starving, people can sense that.
Oh, they see desperation on your face.
Yeah.
It's like I always say, if I'm walking down the street and I see someone desperate looking, walking towards me, I just cross the street.
Yeah.
Like I don't need the headache right now. And we come across, you can smell it. And I tell people sometimes your desperation comes across in your pitch. I can smell commission on your breath. Like that's all you're thinking about.
You don't care about helping me.
You don't give a shit. And matter of fact, the way now I'm starting to get fired up. How much time we got?
We're good. We got 30 minutes. We're solid.
I get a little fired up about this because I see people doing all these different things that are simply money driven. And it's great. You got to pay some bills, but they rarely last. And you rarely have impact. And they're not going to write about you in the history books one day. It's that passion, doing something that you just know. Find me at the top of this mountain or dead on the side trying to get there. I just believe, and that's that's different. And I don't know if I don't want to call it a lost art because I sound like my dad sometimes. Like well, this is how it used to be.
Back in the good old
Back
days.
in the day when we walked to school barefoot.
Uphill both ways.
Yeah, exactly, in the snow. I don't want to be that guy now, but. Obviously, society changes, evolves, and that's what's happening. We're changing, and we really have become this instant gratification deal. We're a microwave society, man. We lost the crock pot.
Yeah.
We don't have time. If we wait in line at McDonald's for a hamburger, our blood pressure goes through the roof before we even touch the blood pressure-inducing materials. I mean,
Yes.
we're moving so fast, and I think people don't even think about, am I setting myself up? What is my future going to look like? So there's so many things you can do today, but it's like, what does that do for my future? And if I'm young and I'm doing this, can I still do this, in 5-10 years from now?
Yeah, the longevity. And a lot of people don't think of the longevity. And to your point, a lot of people build things and then they're like, I have all the money in the world, I have no real friends, and I'm miserable. So I think you do have to have a purpose. I call it purpose, profit, impact. Like, what's your purpose vehicle? How are you going to make profit? And so that way you can leave an impact.
I love that.
How do you think people could go about finding it? Like, how did you find, obviously your daughter was a big why for you, but someone starting from scratch, maybe they're looking into becoming an affiliate or building a business.
Well,
how do they do it right?
I think, like I was saying before, I think the first thing is if you're broke, that in itself should be enough to get you to do something. But I don't know that being broke is enough to get somebody over the top. I think because what happens is sometimes you can get just enough. Now your bills are covered. I think some people get so comfortable in their brokenness and they're good at the struggle. And they find a way, they got a roof over their head, they got enough food to eat. Matter of fact, in America, it looks like some of the brokest people eat the most somehow.
Yeah.
So I don't know, we should do a study on correlation between broke and weight gain, and I'd be curious to see what that looks like.
Well, because energetically, when you're eating more, your energy's gone, you don't feel good, you're more lethargic.
And you're probably eating off the dollar menu, off whatever, fast food and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think it is all tied, and that's interesting because that's a cycle that's it's very difficult to break.
Absolutely.
And so again, you said it, having a wife. If you got kids, then for sure, that's the why. Like, let's create a better place for them.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing for me. I didn't want my kids growing up in the same neighborhood I grew up in. It's always, I got early on, Jim Rohn was in my life because of this television thing I talked to you about that we were putting out. And he would always hear, like, take inventory. It was always like, take inventory of yourself.
Yeah.
Like, where are you right now? Paul J. Meyer, too, an incredible man, billionaire, was one of my early mentors. And he was the same way. He was always like, where are you right now? Let's get a real clear picture of that. And he always did it with this wheel, like your spiritual, your financial, your social, all these different things. So, and we would create this wheel, and we would see if our wheel would your wheel roll down the road, is what he would say. And he said, most people aren't going to have, you're not going to have, when you're first launching a company, you're probably not going to have bounce. Something's got to give somewhere. Mm-hmm. But at some point, what you're trying to do is get some kind of like, well, I got a business, but I'm also hanging out with my kids. I got a business, but I still take my wife out for romantic dinners. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I got a business, but I'm still involved with, my spiritual activities. Mm-hmm. And that's hard because we have a society now that we really encourage people, like, don't sleep, be arrogant, or to be. That's why I had to remind. I have ego is the enemy tattooed on my arm, because I lost everything too. Made millions, lost everything, and it was more, that loss had more to do with my ego than anything else.
Really?
I think it was LL Cool J that said, "The man made the money didn't make the man," and I got it mixed up. You couldn't talk to me, like.
That you were like that?
I had my stint. I had my stint. Yeah, and nobody likes that person. We all will cheer them when they walk on a stage because right now they're winning, and you don't want to be the oddball. But when they have a fall, what do?
Oh,
we show up.
We stomp them.
We stomp them like, oh, you're on the ground. Let me
just
now,
kick
like,
you.
I knew he was a scammer. Like, we go on Baller Busters, whatever that channel is. Like, I knew it.
Yeah.
So don't trip if you got a big ego.
Yeah.
You see it. Guys like Wes Watson. And I'm not here to create drama with this dude. I don't know him, but I see his stuff. He says things in a way I wouldn't say it. Mm-hmm. And then I see him getting blasted all over the internet because people are just waiting, because he does come across very arrogant.
Do you think his arrogance is authentic to him, or do you think it's forced arrogance? You know what
Are we going to
saying?
air this?
No, we can cut this, actually.
No, I don't care. I
always just wonder.
Anything
with
I would
people.
say here, I would say in front of another man.
Yeah.
Because I come from an environment of people like that, I do believe that's part of who he is.
Yeah.
It's just kind of who he is, and because I have some friends that have done 20 years in prison. Mm-hmm. Well, no, you know what? They're humble now. They were more like that before they went to prison. Coming out of prison, I don't have friends that act like that right now.
Yeah.
That are free.
Yeah.
Because it leads to challenges. Mm-hmm. People are always going to test you.
Yeah.
There's always going to be someone that's you think you're that. Especially where I come from, you knew if you're going to put something out there, someone's going to come and test you.
Oh yeah.
And I wasn't really. What's funny is when I look back, I wasn't built for. I always say I wasn't built for the neighborhood I grew up in. I couldn't do some of the things that some of my friends could do without. Like, I always felt sometimes they don't have a conscience. Like, there's things I just couldn't do that were being done at parties, and I wasn't built for it. And so I always had this sense of, I need to find a way to get the fuck out of here. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't know having a heart attack and almost dying from smoking crack was going to be the way I got out. But
it got you out.
God works in mysterious ways, right?
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
He does. Yeah. So what excites you now? What are you looking forward to? What are you excited about right now?
I'm excited about a lot of things. Like, one thing I put a big priority on play. I'm not one of these guys that say, oh, you should never drink, you should never, like I see some of these gurus now about, look, go to Peru and get in a tent with a shaman and drink some ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Go on a wine tour sometime with your lady.
Yeah.
Go to the Cayman Islands and go do this rum thing that I did. Some of the best times I've had have been in these social environments. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying go get freaking wasted and cause problems in your life, but I'm saying, I like to celebrate. I'm big on Taco Tuesday, which is tonight. I don't miss Taco Tuesday. That's a big celebration for
Okay.
me. So I just believe that why would you do this? Well, now you don't need alcohol to do it. It just so happens a lot of these things have alcohol around it. But I don't beat people up for celebrating and having a good time and letting their hair down and getting some rest. Because this whole sleep is for suckers thing that I hear some of these entrepreneurs say. I said, no, what's going to happen is you're going to end up like I did. I was about 40 years old. I owned a nightclub, and I didn't sleep, and I was engaged in that club. That was my life, and it literally almost took my life. I was dealing with all the health issues that come from not sleeping, and of course I'm in that environment, so I'm partaking in a lot of things. So it's finding that balance in some form. In the beginning, when you launch something, the problem is I launched it, but I never got out of the launch. I just stayed constantly on the grind. I don't know. I have a lot. I have a lot to be passionate. I have an incredible wife that we're traveling the world. We got a bunch of big trips. I always say the best way to end racism is to travel. I taught my kids this. It's hard to hate on someone that doesn't look like you when you break bread with them, when you're in their culture, when you see why they do the things that they do. I'm big on that. I got a book coming out about interracial relationships.
Okay. Yeah. How has that been for you? Because obviously you're in an interracial relationship and she's younger. But what I will say, because sometimes I think people are like, oh, they just want him for the money. No, you and your wife are insanely in love. Like I've seen you guys multiple times, and it's actually beautiful to watch.
We've been together 9 years.
Is she your best friend?
Yeah. And it's so much beyond that. I never had a relationship like this. She, I always joke, and it's really not a joke. Even though there's an age gap, and chronologically speaking, I'm older. She is way more mature. She's the one who's kind of pulled me out of the nightclubs. She's the one who's said the reason why I'm sitting up right now and trying to get my posture right is because my wife is like, stop slouching. She's brought this energy into my life, again, that makes me want to be a better man. I want to be a better husband. Because I've been married before, and I always had this man's man, that I got from my dad. My dad was a steel worker who was like, F bitches, he just, he's not like that anymore, but he had his moments. And when you grow up in that environment, you start thinking like that. But then God gave me 4 daughters.
That'll humble you real quick.
Yeah, it's like, oh, no. And then boys would show up and they were like me. And I'm like, no, bro, you cannot date my kids. Najla she's highly educated where I'm not. So we have these when they say opposites attract, we do have these opposites, but it's not when we get bashed on social media, it's so funny to me what people say because it's completely different than what they think. Yeah. She's the proper, she's proper, she's classy, she's educated. I'm kind of on the I'm on the other side. I'm not all those things, but every day I'm working on being better because of her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's the right kind of partnership. There's two kinds, right? You want to be better because you're with this person and they make you want to be better, or you're always in this state of like fear, trying to hide stuff or not make them angry because they're so insecure.
You know what I said the other day? She needed something. I don't know, she was going to put something in my phone. And I said, you know what I love? I can hand you my phone and my heart isn't racing. I'm not worried about you're going to scroll through and see something. Because I've never had a relationship where I had that confidence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a weird thing, but there's something freeing about that. There really is a confidence about, hey man, I don't hide nothing in any area, because I know guys, and I'm not calling anybody else any names, but guys that have, are either married or have relationships, their wives don't know all the things that they're doing. And it's easy to disguise stuff when you're in business because I got business trips, I got things to do. And I was a master at all that stuff. And it's been freeing to say, this is where I'm at. I'm locked in here. And this is where my energy, this is where my heart is. And I wouldn't do that for anybody. It's not because, she's beautiful, like one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my entire freaking life. And she's, everywhere we go, people stare. And you hear it, and you see her DM filled with people. But that's easy to get. You know what I mean? Beauty is everywhere. But when you have when you have the inside, when you have the inner beauty, when you got it on the outside. That's great. Congratulations. God bless you. I don't know why he made me look like this and you get to look like that. The shit ain't fair, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? It's like, that's how it goes.
That's because you have eyes and you get to look at her.
Yeah, I get to, it works out
it.
great for me, man, because
Yeah.
now she's an extension of me. So actually, I realize she makes me look better. So, I like walking in a room with her. But, there's this pride about who she is as a woman. Every single morning, and this is not what she's supposed to do or I'm making her do. This is just what she does. She cooks a full damn breakfast. I'm talking steak, eggs.
What?
Every morning.
I'm moving in.
After the gym. It's like we have our daily method of operation. And we do our fasted workouts. We promote our products, our supplement stuff, because we have a supplement company. And then we come home and she throws down in the kitchen. And she's got this Caribbean spicy flair. And she loves to cook, and she's super freaking organized, and I'm not. So my socks were there earlier on the floor. They're not there anymore. And she's running businesses. She's creating the AI stuff. And I told her she's got to train people how to do it because she's been working on that for a year. Mm-hmm. And now she's got this AI thing smoking, just doing whatever, talking and dancing and going to football games.
It's incredible.
It's crazy.
No, she could sell that easy. I bet you a lot of people would be curious how to do it and have no idea how to start.
She's relentless, but she comes from a great family. Her mom and dad, both huge work ethic, and she's got, a whole bunch of my sisters now, I call them, but 6 sisters and 16 siblings total.
Wow.
So, yeah, and so she holds it down, man. And so there's so much substance in my house that wasn't there before.
Is that the difference between, you said you were married before and other what makes this relationship different for those people who maybe are looking for that or looking for a relationship? Because what I've noticed too, a lot of times we find someone and we're like, oh, well, they check all the boxes. I guess I should marry him. But there's not that. And sometimes you don't know what being in love feels like because you've never had it. So what's the difference?
Well,
what's the differentiator?
Number one, there was no way I was getting married again. When you got, first off, what started happening is like, wow, we're having a great time. Wow, we're having great conversations. Wow, you are an entrepreneur. And for me, the way I feel like, if you're an entrepreneur and you're committed to this lifestyle, you need someone that gets it. Because my first marriage, she didn't get it. She didn't understand why I wanted out of the neighborhood so bad. She couldn't understand my drive, my ambition, because, well, all right, it's basically we got a roof over our head and we're eating, and that was not good enough for me. So with Najla and I, the philosophy became really clear. You get better for me, and I'll get better for you. So it wasn't about you do stuff for me, or you just make yourself better. You make yourself better. And so she's on this manifestation, personal development journey, which I've been with a lot of younger women, all over 21, by the way, because I would meet them in the clubs. Like people talk shit. Like Instagram's got a way. Well, yeah, it's so annoying. But they didn't have most of them didn't have that personal development tie, which for me, from my background and what I went through, that becomes a big part of it. And she's got it to the point where, have you wrote in your manifestation journal, John, and you get your posture right, and which I need.
I need that.
Yeah, I need that. I need some accountability. I need someone who is growing, because if it's just me growing all the time, what do we always say? We grew apart. You hear it all over and over. We grew apart. And what's interesting is we're growing together.
Yes.
So I never had that.
That's the key right there, is finding someone you can grow together with. And you say, even though you're talking all high and you're like, I'm this and that, here's the thing, vibration attracts. And I think people who aren't on the same vibrational level, the one will fall off. And so it's you are what she is in so many ways, and she is what you are in so many ways.
That's a good point.
Because you guys are both vibrating it that way. You wouldn't attract her if you weren't those things. She wouldn't be attracted to
That's
you.
true. Yeah.
And look she's so in love with you, and you guys are just killing it.
We're blessed, man. I'm a blessed man by any measure. I want more out of life. I'm in my 50s now, and I want more. I want to do more. I want to travel more. I want to see more. I want to experience more. And my wife brings this high vibration into it. Okay, I had this plan, but now we've expanded it. Now we're going to do this, or we have 3 companies together that we own together, And she's like the tech side. She handles all this back end stuff that I give up
Yeah.
on some of this tech. I get frustrated, and she just stays in the game, gets it done, and that makes an like I'm more upfront. She's more introverted.
Yes.
So it allows me to be who I am. You know what I mean? And it allows her to be who she is.
Yep.
And I would say I'm the ventriloquist. You see the ventriloquist dummies? Like I'm the mouthpiece, but she's behind pulling the the string
Yeah.
and stuff.
Or how they say like the man is the head, but the woman's the neck.
Yes. That's a
Right.
good point.
So
Yes.
I love that. Well, where can people find you who want to learn more about you? What are you doing right now that they could sign up for? Do you have anything? Did you offering that affiliate opportunity to people?
Yeah, I never really push my stuff. I put it out there like this is what we do. You know, we've got a never-ending supply of people today that are looking for stuff. And if someone wants to be with a real deal and they're not looking for hype, they can hit me up on Instagram.
What's your Instagram?
It's my first and last name. It's John John Malott Malott. And I now handle that myself. I had other people doing it before. I handle all that. So if someone hits me up, say, hey, I'm looking for an opportunity or whatever.
Okay.
You know, we've got a place for just about anybody.
That's amazing.
And if you look, we pay every day too. So if your bills come every day, I got a way for you to get paid every day.
Yeah, which is huge, especially when you're trying to move into this new place in life.
Yeah.
And I think you're a great example of like, there's first chances, second chances, third chances, fourth chance. Like life is just full of chances. And I've learned we've never actually figured it out. It's just a journey that we need to learn to enjoy.
Man, I think that's the key is learning to enjoy this thing.
Yeah.
Because I think we get so caught up in what we don't have or what we haven't done, and I'm guilty of it as well. But there's something about that gratitude. I had a mentor that said that the height of your success will be determined by the depth of your gratitude.
I love
And
that.
it's very interesting. And the more grateful I am, the more successful I become. And yeah, it's cool.
And gratitude at all levels, because sometimes people would be like, well, it's easy for him to say, look at, he has it all now. And it's like, no, I have gratitude even at the lowest points. Like, thank you that I woke up today. Thank you that I have another opportunity.
My wife and I have this thing that we do every night. You know, we have our prayer that we do, and it's always thank you. And the first thing we say is thank you for the roof over our head. You know, and most people have a roof over their head. Now I know we have a homeless problem, and we could do a whole another hour just on how we could solve that. But you know, the food in our belly, man. There's so many little things that we take for granted, and like we do it every year on Thanksgiving. And then we go through our list and we thank our friends and family, and then we're over it.
Yeah.
But I think practicing that in some form every single day somehow leads to more of that.
Absolutely.
And so we're manifesting, you know, bigger and better. And the other part of it, you said it, and it just hit me. People think, yeah, you. Like even in our circle where I've got all these affiliates that are around us. And some of them even told me, said, well, yeah, for you, it's okay for you, or we know why you're successful, or because I always lead by example. So if I have an affiliate program, I guarantee you I'm on the leaderboard. I guarantee I'm in the trenches. Even though I'm getting an override, yeah, of course. But I'm going to work just as hard, and I'm going to lead. Like our first month back, I was #1 in the entire company. The company's been around 50 years. Came back, been there 3 weeks. I'm #1 out of everybody in the entire company. Not again, maybe to pat myself on the back a little bit, but what the team will say is because of who you are. No, it's because I made 50 exposures today.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because I'm doing the work that you could do, because everything I do is automated. So I'm basically using my thumbs, pressing buttons. So I'm like, there's nothing I'm doing. I'm not sitting down having lunch with people. I didn't put 500 people in a room and spoke to them. Now I could do that, and I will do that in the future, but that's not how we're doing it on a day-to-day basis. And so, you know, we're building these opportunities where anybody, if you can push a button, if you can fog a mirror, basically, and you have a little bit of wherewithal, you know, we can help you make big money. And so I always say when I made $10 million, or when I made $1 million, my team made $10 million. And for me, that's always been the judge of how great a leader are you? What is your real success? Yeah. I think it was John Maxwell that said, there is no success without successors. So it's great you're so successful, but show me who else you helped become as successful. And I can show you, you know, at one point we had 600 6- and 7-figure earners. besides me that we were engaged in mentoring and part of. South Korea, I'd show up to South Korea, 30,000 people in an auditorium that we'd speak to that were our affiliates. I don't speak the language. I eat kimchi from time to time, but when you're starting to have an impact all over the world because we built these scalable systems and we're pouring into them. It was like there was a point in my life where I cared so much about you having success that I was neglecting my own success. Now I've gotten better at that. Like I realized, on an airplane, put your mask on first before you help anyone else. And so we did that. Now we've shored ourselves up, so I'm not on this roller coaster where I was before, so I can really help other people. Anyways, I just went on a tangent.
No, I love that. No, tangents are welcome. And it's a good reminder. You can't pour from an empty cup, and when you help other people win, you're more likely to win.
I agree.
It's like, let's do it together. So the last question that I always like to end with is, because the whole mission of this podcast is to illuminate the world with wisdom, perspective, and hope. Do you have a piece of wisdom or hope that you would like to leave with people that's unique to you?
Well, I always say that you don't have to be great to start, but you've got to start to be great. And it was so hard for me to get started. But once I did it and I got past that fear, I've never been skydiving. I had a desire to do it at one point in my life. I have no desire to jump out of a perfectly good airplane anymore, so please nobody invite me. I have no interest. I don't want to be in a hot air balloon. I don't want to do any of that stuff. But I had a friend that told me he went skydiving and he was scared to death the whole time. But he said as soon as he jumped, the fear was gone. And I think entrepreneurship is like that. I think relationships are like that. When I gave up on a lot of the fear that was keeping me from having great relationships, because it was forcing me to act a certain way, you know what I mean? And by me acting the way I acted in the previous relationship, I could only possibly have the results I had from the previous relationship. So I had to change all this stuff. So I had to start in a clean slate, and a lot of it came down to, in business, I had to learn the right skills. I had to get around the right people, associations. I already knew about that. And that was a changer. Just go start it. And then watch, like, I've been working on this book for a long time. It took me a year and a half to type the first frickin' word. You know what I mean? But once you start going, you get a little momentum.
Yes.
And now, we launched our new service. Same thing. I started it, and now we're getting momentum. We're going to the second month. The second month's going to be, I would say our next move is always our best move. So.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. I'm really grateful to have you. Seriously.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. This was fun.